Welcome to Across the Gun Counter, guys. I'm your host, Joe Riva, joined by my co-host,
Tyler Weaver.
and we are here this week to discuss a topic that I'm kind of, I don't want to say not sick of this question, but it's a question I've been getting a lot at the shop lately, especially in light of recent events. There's been a lot of stuff in the news about braces and stocks. I mean, wouldn't you say, Tyler?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a question that comes around quite a lot. You know, what's a brace? What's a stock? What's a pistol? What's a rifle? What's not? And did you commit a crime or did you not commit a crime? Because it's very, very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you want to even get into further rabbit hole, there's like the other firearms for states like New Jersey, New York, which, Tyler, you, the one day you had to reach out to me about that, actually.
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, being a gunsmith in Pennsylvania, I do deal a lot with customers from New York and New Jersey, and a lot of times it's like, you know what? There's so many companies pushing the bill with stuff that's like borderline legal. It's like, how am I supposed to keep up in a free state, if you will?
That's the thing I always like to refer to Pennsylvania as a free state compared to New Jersey, because New Jersey is extremely restrictive, whether it be for a rifle, handgun, anything at this point. New Jersey is just not a fun place to be for firearms.
Yeah, so it's always nice to have a contact just to double check, like, hey man, I feel like this, skates by the definition, but what's your take on it? What have you heard?
Yeah, and the worst part is about that too is even since I left New Jersey and since I stopped working over in New Jersey, they've changed even more since. Like, I've had more New Jersey customers come in and tell me, "Oh, do you need my?" I think it was like the digital FID, and there was something else for ammo. The one guy was mentioning, and I'm like, "No, what is that?" Like, the one guy had another form the other day too, and I was like, "No, we just write a receipt."
Yeah,
Yeah, it was kind of odd. I mean, they've changed since I left there, and that was, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
yeah, and that's part of the problem with being in the gun industry. It's like shit's always changing all the time, and there's serious consequences if you don't abide by the law. So I mean, like, think about it this way: if you're driving down the road and suddenly it's like, oh hey, you can't make a right turn on red anymore. They just, overturned that last week. It's like, what the fuck? Nobody told me.
Oh yeah, it's like a local ordinance or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what it's like being in the gun industry.
Yeah, and that's very unfortunate, especially when it comes to braces, stocks. Everyone's extremely, extremely confused about it, and I think now is a better time than any other to touch base on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is another topic that I think is a very unique one for Tyler and I, because it's not a topic that we agree 100% on. Not that we don't agree.
We don't disagree, but I'm against braces.
Yeah, so, and I'm more for braces, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand their place in the industry, but for me, it's just it's not my forte.
And that's fine. I mean, everyone has their own preferences. Everyone has their own takes on things, which we can agree to disagree. And like you said, they have their place in the industry, and there's a reason for them. It's just not something you've personally partook in.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into it, man. What exactly is a pistol brace, and like what's their place in the industry? Why did they even come about?
The pistol braces, they came about, I want to say about like 2012-ish, somewhere in that area, and it started with the SIG brace, if I recall correctly. And
Yes.
basically, what the SIG brace was up until this point was AR pistols. You basically just had this tube on the rear of the pistol, and you couldn't stabilize it by shouldering it by any means. If you wanted to put a stock on it, that would be then a short barrel rifle, which would be something you'd have to register. And the brace basically was designed for people with handicaps and disabilities to attach this stabilizing brace to their arms so they can help stabilize the pistol to shoot. And the pistols originally intended in mind were AR-15 style pistols. So, of course, that's going to be a problem for some people, because AR-15s are evil and bad, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, there was a while there where you saw adapter kits where people were running basically like buffer tubes on AK pistols so they could run a brace on them.
Yep, and they became very popular very quickly. And then the next thing was they dove down a rabbit hole of people writing letters to the ATF of, is this legal? Is this not legal? Can I shoulder it? Can I not shoulder it? And that resulted in a whole nother...
Oh, the big headache.
because the ATF responded with multiple letters, if I recall, the one basically saying, yeah, go ahead, shoulder it, because the idea was to design to stabilize. And the idea is there's nothing to actually, with a form of solid back for you to actually shoulder it like a stock. And then another letter came out that said, well, no, you can't shoulder it because if you're stabilizing it on your shoulder, you're doing what a stock is doing, basically.
Mm-hmm. But that was one of the things I always thought, where like the SIG brace was basically like a rubber taco, if you will.
A rubber taco.
Where like, yeah, think of it, it's an upside down rubber taco. Where, yeah, it's pretty thick. It's pretty thick rubber, but it still doesn't give you excellent support, even if you were to shoulder it.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, it doesn't. I mean, yeah, you do get some added benefits opposed to having just like the bare tube.
Oh, just jamming a buffer tube into your shoulder.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's not as comfortable as people make it out to be. Like I've shot several different braces over the years. Basically all of them. I've tried a decent number of them. And a lot of the ones that people recommend that they say are more, that they claim are to be better, I did not find as comfortable as people made out to be. Now, granted, I'm not saying no to braces or no anything like that. I understand their limitations. Yes, some people may use them as I don't want to say a loophole, but because I don't think that's the right term to use, but I know a lot of people are going to say it is. And but you know what I'm saying?
I don't want to call it a loophole either. I would say it's more of an aesthetic thing where it's like, look, I want to be able to run a 10.5-inch barrel, but I still want it to look like a rifle, if that makes sense. I want it to look proportionate. I want it to look balanced, not like the whole gun is up front and then you have this tiny little tube that sticks out the back.
Oh, exactly.
With like maybe a piece of foam on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's something else that adds to keep in mind there is with the stabilizing brace, you do have the added benefit of you have an added balance throughout the firearm.
Oh, yeah, and it makes a world of difference.
Oh, absolutely. And you're basically adding that, you're adding a little bit of length to it, but you're also able to control your shots better. And a lot of people, when it comes to firearms and firearm safety, like, they say, what is one of the first rules? You want to make sure you're controlling your firearm and knowing what you're hitting and what's behind your target. If you don't have something to stabilize your firearm properly, you're not going to be able to hit your target properly, and your shots are going to go wide, and what's going to happen? You're not going to...
So, Joey, hold on. What I'm hearing you say is that pistol braces are actually safety equipment?
Yes, I actually am saying that. Pistol braces save lives. They don't take away lives. They save lives because they allow people to stabilize their shots and make sure what they're shooting at is what they're shooting at. And they don't accidentally hit a bystander, or they don't accidentally hit an animal, or they don't accidentally hit something else. They hit what they're intending on because what is it doing? It's stabilizing the firearm.
Yeah, but you know what would stabilize it a lot better?
What's
stock.
That? Oh, absolutely. I agree. A stock would
just SBR the damn thing.
See, and that's part of the issue is, do you want to register your firearm or not? And do you want to pay a $200 tax to the government to register your firearm?
Yeah, because let's be honest, $200 isn't an extreme amount, but it's enough of a hurdle where a lot of people are deterred from it, let alone the paperwork and the waiting period.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what's NFA wait times up to? Like, not e-file, like your standard paper form.
Oh, about 11 months.
Like 12 months? Yeah, 11, 12 months.
Yep, I just had some guy tell me he was waiting on his e-file. That's going on like 7 months.
Yeah, my e-file's, I think, up to, I think it might be 8.
Really?
What month are we in? January?
Yeah,
I think
January.
I started that. Yeah, I submitted that in April of 2022. So,
geez, and I thought the e-file was supposed to be quicker too.
Yeah, but then when you have everybody flood that too, it's like, hey, we're right back to where we were.
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
and
I don't know.
So
ATF needs to get more help in that department.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, I think when it comes to the stock and brace thing and SBRing versus having a pistol, why am I registering my gun? I don't want to register my gun. Like the whole way, the gun registries are supposed to be illegal here in the United States. And
technically, yes.
Yeah, but you know how they get around that? It's not a registry, it's a tax. So like when you have your SBR and your suppressors and all that, it's a tax. It is a registered firearm, but it's a taxed firearm, and that's how they get around it legally.
Yeah. So if the ATF ever asks for your tax stamp, you say, no, I only will show it to the IRS because it's a tax return, right? That's how that works?
I was curious about the legality of that, but we're not lawyers, so...
No, no, this show is for entertainment purposes only.
Yep, entertainment purposes, not legal advice. So if you take this as legal advice, well, you're screwed because, quite frankly, we're not lawyers. So do not take any of this as legal advice.
No, no. So now
But
back to
joking
the
aside,
whole
yeah.
yeah, back to the whole pistol brace SBR thing. Now, what's your thoughts on using the pistol brace during your waiting period? Because that's one thing I've considered. I mean, when I did my AR SBR, because right now I'm up to 3 SBRs. When I did
Okay.
my AR, I built that as a pistol first with a pistol buffer tube on it while I was waiting for my tax stamp to get approved. Well, it was just the pistol buffer tube, so it's like, well, it's kind of pointless for me to take this to the range because, like you said, you can't control it or do anything like that.
Mhm.
So it just sat in the safe with it in that legal configuration until the tax stamp was approved.
So
So what are your thoughts on that?
I
Like
think that's
just
a
more of like a placeholder.
so for some people, if you're intending to SBR the firearm and you're actually planning on going through it, I think that's a cool idea. I heard a number of people do that when they've come into the shop. In particular, I remember there was one guy who I believe was transferring. It was a Gideon 2 or something like that. It was like the like a UMP, not like the Tommy built tactical one, but another one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so it
was
was
gonna
just
say, yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
yeah, that it was interesting, but he said he was going to brace it until he actually got his SBR through, and I said, "Oh, that's cool." And some guy had a Robinson pistol transfer through and did the same exact thing. Basically, he said, "I'm going to brace it until I can get the until I
Yeah.
go file for my SBR." So if that's what you want to do as a placeholder, so you can still have fun with it and go to the range, go ahead.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one thing for me that I see a useful purpose with the brace because like I said, I'm not a huge fan of it as a gunsmith. I'd like to see firearms in their correct state.
hmm
So it's one of the things to me it's not right.
See, now there's numerous firearms where they act as a stabilizing brace, and the stabilizing brace acts 100% as intended, where you strap, you actually put your arm through it
Yeah.
and you use the strap. And there are several firearms where that does improve it. And it's extremely surprising on the firearms it does. Not, I shouldn't say it's extremely surprising because that's not the right term, but it's extremely comfortable in the firearms where it does work very well. And the one
Like
in
the SIG brace. The SIG brace was one I always found like, okay, yeah, I could see this.
Yeah, there was so similar to the Sig Brace. There was one actually on one of your favorite style of guns, which was the Uzi, the micro Uzi in particular. Actually, the new IWI ones.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, that thing with a brace is so you actually have the brace and you actually put your arm through it and you can actually hold it like stabilize it 100% with just one-handed shooting.
Okay.
And because the way the Uzi is designed is you have the magazine through the pistol grip and you have that rear kind of safety grip like a 1911,
Mhm.
it works very well. You could even put like a green dot, you could put a red dot. I say green dot in particular because I
Mhm.
always use green dots, stigmatism in the eyes, and it works. It's amazing how well it works. Like we were kind of joking about it at the shop the one day. Like we were saying like, what could you drop an optic on? Originally we were putting like a 4x12
Okay.
and then I was like, let me throw a hollow sun on here real quick and let me actually see how this works with the brace. And
Yeah.
I eyebrows raised like, ooh,
Huh.
this
This
is
actually isn't too bad.
no, this isn't too bad, and I would very much enjoy something like this.
Now what's that like the configuration? Is it just like a rubber like U basically?
I believe it was very I think the brace itself was like the Sig brace style, where it kind of had that
Okay.
cam down, but it had the that adapter on it, so it folded to the side, so it had like
Yep,
a
yep,
pistol
yep.
tube attached to it. Yeah, so that was really cool and extremely comfortable, and shooting it in the original guise is very very comfortable. There's no need to shoulder it or anything like that.
Yeah. Now like I've seen other they're braces, but it's all what, hard plastic and it just kind of hinges one section of it down.
Okay, like
So
the tail hook ones you're talking about.
yes. Now that always threw me because that was all what, solid plastic, right?
Yeah, it was polymer, or I think some of them were actually metal, believe it or not.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, now I understand it's designed as a brace, but functionally that does have no difference from a stock.
So I'm
You know,
gonna.
it's just a very uncomfortable. Okay, look at the Mac 10. You know, the Mac 10 has a very uncomfortable wire stock. It's
What
still a stock.
what would you do if I told you that brace is a very similar brace that is on the Spaz 12 shotgun.
Yeah, yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Yeah, think about that. So if you fire that brace the same way that is designed, like a Spaz 12 brace is, where you hook that under your arm like that,
Hmm.
yep, that does have a purpose. You just realize now.
It does.
Yeah. I'm getting you to believe in braces, Tyler. I
No,
really am.
you'll never get me to believe in braces. Another thing I remember seeing a while back, uh, what is it, SB Tactical, where they
Oh
started
man.
coming out with the because like the Sig brace went over a straight buffer tube, so like you couldn't even put a stock on it. Then you have SB Tactical with the adjustable brace, and it's like
See,
that's
and
really close to a stock.
yes, and so here's the thing. When they first announced pistol braces, legality aside, what they legally are and what they aren't is different. What my thoughts are, or Tyler's thoughts are. And that being said, when they first showed off the braces, I said those are really cool. But I think that's kind of, I don't want to say asking for trouble, but I said could potentially lead to something.
Yeah. Oh, I was in the same boat, and I think at the same time they what the hell was it? They had a MPX with a muzzle brake in quotes that was basically internal baffles of a like a monocore suppressor,
Mm-hmm.
just without the tube over it. And I
Oh,
believe that got shot down. They're like, no, that's not a muzzle brake.
yeah, that was along those gray area lines.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I thought was going to be, so again, here's the issue is when it comes to the NFA and all these legal gray areas with firearms, is there's never 100, it seems like there's never 100% clear definition, or at times there's
No, and they
different
do that on
definitions.
purpose.
So when you keep having these different definitions and different thoughts, and what's okay, what's not okay, it's extremely hard to keep track of as the individual who's not involved in the gun industry. I may or may not have seen people come in with a stock on a pistol before, and like, that's a SBR. You need to get that out of here.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure you may have seen something like that in the shop before too.
Honestly, I have not, but I've had other gunsmiths contact me that are like, "Hey, this guy says this is a brace. It doesn't look like a brace. That's a stock." And I take a look at it, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna say that's a stock."
That's a stock, not a brace. And
Yeah,
that's the thing is, what is actually the legal definition of a brace, and what is the legal definition of a stock? And when you look at that, is I actually don't know if there is a 100% legal definition of a brace, because if I recall, the initial approval letters was for the SIG brace, and there was one other brace, and then based off
okay,
those two approval letters, they were going off, and then all the other braces were being formed, where they had to have a cut in them, they had to have some kind of slit, they couldn't have a solid backing for you to form like a normal stock. So your
okay,
your normal stock is actually going to have a solid flat back, or something of that nature, whereas a brace is always going to have a hole or a cut where it's basically going to be loose, and you're going to have to be able to somehow use that as a third point of contact. In the
yeah,
point with the SIG brace, you had the whole opening at the bottom that you could put your arm through, and you had the strap that held it together. There's stuff like the Keck, the shockwave blade, where that's designed to be a third point of contact on your wrist area and your forearm.
okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
so that one, if you look at it, it looks basically kind of like almost like a T, and there's like,
Okay,
yeah, and there's kind of like a cut in it that you can actually put a strap through. But the one back when I had the AR pistol years ago, I don't have that any longer. That didn't actually ship with the strap with it, so that one was never had a strap with it. So that was meant just as a third point of contact on your arm to kind of hold it out and kind of stabilize it, which kind of actually worked, believe it or not.
hmm.
And yeah, shouldering that, I can tell you, may or may not have been very uncomfortable. And especially after shooting anything more than 10, 15 rounds,
Oh yeah,
why?
what was it, 12 gauge?
Yeah, 5.56 becomes a lot more potent at that point. And I know some people are like, "Oh, you're a bitch," and you know what? Well, it's just not comfortable and pleasant to shoot. You can say it is, but fine, it's
Yeah,
not. And I mean, there are some braces that are more comfortable than others in every which regard, whether it be tapping against your forearm or anything of that nature.
hmm,
It's there's a lot more. I think there's every brace is kind of different,
yeah, definitely.
especially like the one back when I had the Scorpion, the Evo. That one was more like a side folding one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and that's got a lot of polymer to it, doesn't it?
That has a lot of polymer, and I know that one in particular has gotten a lot of flack because, and when I say it's gotten a lot of flack, I say a lot of criticism from, the government beings, and because it's basically like a stock. And the reason they say it's like a stock is because it has two sides to it, basically, that it's really kind of difficult to actually get your arm through it comfortably.
Yeah,
And
so
so
it's like the actual stabilizing brace was almost like an afterthought for how they were going to get it to work.
exactly. And so I think for some braces are a little bit more difficult for, I guess, the ETF or other people to justify as actually braces or stocks. Whether you agree with that or not, I guess is up to your own opinion at the end of the day. But, there is a difference between a stock and a brace, and I think you should know it.
Yeah.
And
But now here's the thing, where like the ATF comes out with a definition. Okay, this is what a short barrel rifle is. Regardless, you're always going to have a industry that pushes and pushes and pushes to see how much they can get away with without making the ATF's definition of a short barrel rifle. So it's one of the things, are you constantly going to go back and forth? It's like, nah, that's too close. But that's okay. Like you were saying, just when you look at stabilizing braces as a whole, you have the SIG brace all the way to like the tail hook, that the Scorpion brace, like you were saying, where it's like kind of difficult to use. It's like, okay, but they're all stabilizing braces that do not meet the technical on the books definition of a short barrel rifle.
exactly. And if they don't meet the legal definition of a rifle, you can't just arbitrarily say without a lawmaking body, this is the new definition of, well, we're going to change the rules now because all these people bought them and we don't like it. So now, hey, it doesn't meet the legal definitions of a stock, but we're going to say it meets the legal definitions of a stock because we don't like them.
Yeah. So devil's advocate here. So, like, I understand, okay, the government didn't like SBRs. Essentially, the stabilizing brace allows you to have a legal form of SBR because it's still a rifle with a short barrel to make it more concealable. Which essentially is what it's doing, So my thing with that is, okay, if the government is saying now in America we have what, between 10 to 40 million of these firearms in circulation.
Who can count? I mean, plus not even including receivers that people built as pistols themselves.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is, okay, in this current day and age, are these an issue? If there's 10 to 40 million of them, what's the ratio of braced pistol firearms that are used in crimes compared to your average handgun? And wouldn't that in turn mean that, hey, maybe as a society, maybe we've earned that SBRs and SBSs get taken off the NFA registry?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe at this point, stabilizing braces should be shown that, hey, the NFA is kind of pointless when it comes to short barrel rifles. I mean, I think
Yeah, exactly. It was like our trial run. Like, hey, you guys actually can handle these now. It's not the Roaring 20s.
Exactly. And that being said, we've seen time evolve, and so when it comes to the short barrel rifles and the braces, is they can't control them at this point. There's how many of them out there? Now the floodgates are already opened. Everything's out there. How can you now say it's a short barrel rifle? And I think
you're essentially discrediting yourself.
Exactly. So actually, before we get too much, actually, we've been going down this rabbit hole pretty far already.
I know it's like a heated subject, and
it is, and I'm already feeling.
It really
myself
is a thinking.
I'm already, I'm already feeling not amped up at you, obviously. It's just an amp up subject because I just don't like the government telling us anything about anything, to be honest. And when it comes to let's talk about the National Firearms Act for a second, because I think this needs to be addressed as we're talking about pistol braces and stocks. And what is the National Firearms Act? And the National Firearms Act is basically the first gun control act, federal gun control act in the United States, and was passed in 1934. And it was basically passed shortly after the St. Valentine's Day massacre, I believe it was. And the idea was to control things like machine guns, suppressors, short barrel rifles, and things that are under, I believe it was basically rifles under 18 or rifles under 16 inches in length, barrel length, and shotguns under 18 and a half are considered short barrel rifles or short barrel shotguns. And the idea was to help put a stop on crime and stop these machine guns and stop these, short barrel weapons getting onto the streets and doing all this crime and damage. Well, the idea was these weapons were already, like, especially like Thompson submachine guns. Do you know why the National Firearms Act, why the cost of it is $200?
Wasn't that the retail price of a Thompson submachine gun?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
So yep, they figured if you were willing to pay double it, you can have it.
Yeah, and that was the idea. It was the idea to tax it, so then who could afford them? The rich.
The rich.
And you know who else could afford them? Al Capone and his gangsters and all the criminals out there and all
so
that.
pretty much you were either super wealthy or you had
or you were a
a
gangbanger and
criminal
you didn't care.
enterprise. Yeah.
And you didn't care anyway. So it's almost like they didn't follow the laws anyway. So these laws were put in place to prevent people from who already don't follow the law. It's like, do you see the madness I'm getting at here? Like, I can't be.
Yes. But the members of Congress that made their money, they can afford them.
Oh man, I feel like Alice just falling down the rabbit hole of madness here, and like we have no way to get back up. Like, how do we get out of this hole here?
Oh, that gave me a really bad image in my head of Dianne Feinstein as Cheshire Cat.
Oh, fuck. Oh man. Oh shit. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh
Think
man.
about that when you go to sleep tonight.
Oh no. No. Oh, that's terrifying. Please no.
I know. I had to.
Oh man.
You're leaving that in for the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Oh man, Dianne Feinstein is the Cheshire Cat. Photoshop, here we come tomorrow.
Anyway, back on subject. What were we talking about?
But anyway, so so the National Firearms Act was basically a law passed to make it so people would have to pay to own certain firearms, which in itself is already unconstitutional. But the idea was to control the average citizen from being able to own something like a Thompson submachine gun, Browning automatic rifle, basically anything full automatic, anything short, anything that could be, like you mentioned earlier, concealable. And I mean, some people could argue that's a public safety thing, but at the same time, I don't think that, because first off, we have the Second Amendment here in America, and I'm not even going to dive down that rabbit hole of right to keep and bear arms, because I think you all know where I stand on that. And so you should be allowed to own a machine gun, in my opinion. I will say that. And in the guise of public safety or anything like that, yeah, the average person may or may not think you should be able to, but I think you have the right to do it. And the idea of controlling people, now what was the point of it? It was to tax them. The whole idea was to make money. It wasn't about public safety. They said this idea was, hey, these things will be legal and fine as long as you can pay for them.
Yeah, which doesn't necessarily make sense.
Exactly.
Think about it. Okay, now granted, where do you see a lot of crime in more low-income areas? So, just looking at it in black and white, hey, lower income areas can't afford, machine guns. That'll fix the problem. But that's not necessarily true.
No, because the people there, if they want to commit a crime, they're still going to commit a crime, and they're going to do it with a machine gun. They're going to do it with a knife. They're going to do with whatever. I spoke to a police officer years ago who told me, he rolled up and he saw these 4 kids, and the one was walking with an Uzi in his hand. He rolled up, he walked up on him. The kid dropped it, but like, where did this kid get that? I wish I could get an Uzi. Like,
so you could just find that walking down the street.
Yeah, I mean, so to say that this gun control is stopping, the crime on the streets, it's absolutely not. It's preventing people like you, me, the average person from actually owning this stuff, especially machine guns. Machine guns, as we mentioned, the National Firearms Act, typically with it is you have to pay the $200 tax stamp, and it would allow you to, make or own one of these registered devices. But in the case of the machine gun, you can't even do that anymore after 1986. They closed that.
They cut that off.
Yep, which is even, so now it's not even you can't own it. It's now, goodbye. Yeah, what's out there is there. So it's basically saying that. And here's the biggest, see, all right, I'm getting a little heated here, because I feel very passionately about this. And the whole idea is they're basically now saying any firearm registered before this date was fine. Those are safe, those are fine. But anyone after that is not okay unless you go follow these other rules, which is like the manufacturing and all that.
Pretty much you need like an SOT and
and what's the
You're
idea?
doing it as a business.
And you have to pay a tax. Well,
Yeah.
the idea is
What is it?
about
Special occupation taxpayer. SOT.
oh, exactly. So what I'm getting at is it keeps getting. It's not about public interest in any of that. If you think it is in public safety, I'm sorry, you're kidding yourself at the end of the day. I mean, whatever you need to say to make yourself sleep at night, fine. But it's not. It's all about money. And I'll use a little bit of interest, a little bit of my upbringing here, from New Jersey. I know everyone just kind of shivered when they heard me say New Jersey.
I know I did.
I know you did. And I want to put this thought for you. So when you want to go purchase a firearm in New Jersey, and I'm going to use a handgun in particular. Let's say you've never purchased a firearm at this point, right? So according to the old rules, at least back when I lived in New Jersey, you needed to have your firearms ID card. You also needed to have a pistol permit to purchase a pistol, and you also needed to submit to a background check at the time of purchase. Okay? So right there, that's 3 background checks.
Yeah.
So let's say you just go to get your firearms ID card initially. That's your first background check.
Okay.
Then you go to get your pistol permit. It's your second background check. Then you go to purchase your pistol. At that time of sale, what is federal guidelines? Federal law says you have to,
Have a background check.
exactly. So you fill out a background check. They hit you 3 times for one firearm purchase. That was also, New Jersey is, if I recall correctly, back when I lived there, they were the most expensive state for the background checks. It was $15, I believe. And and over here in Pennsylvania, it's 5. So they would hit you at $15 for the background check at the point of sale. Your pistol permits, here's the kicker. To apply for the pistol permits, you had to pay for a fee. And then each pistol permit was an additional $2 fee. And I believe that just went up in the last bill. So
but it's one of those things. It's like, okay, yeah, they're at it for the money, but then how many people does it take on staff for them, to conduct those background checks and handle all the paperwork and this and that?
Well,
I know what I mean.
I can
so
tell
it's
you
one
this.
of those things.
New Jersey, they don't have it. They have like next to none.
Yeah.
They're very slow about it, and they do that on purpose because they don't want you to have a gun. Plain and simple.
But now here's the thing. Okay,
unless you can pay for it. Unless you can pay for it.
Now,
you
like
can
when
have
we
it.
go back to NFA stuff, would you feel better if it was like a once and done thing? Like, hey, I took my passport photos, sent in my fingerprints. Now I can buy whatever I want.
Would I feel better about it? Probably a little bit better about it. Would I be happy about it? No.
Yeah, still not happy about it, but
I mean, it would be easier than the current process now, and I think that's part of the problem with the current process is you have to pay $200 per item. You have to wait, like we said, about 11 to 12 months, potentially, something like that. Even if you e-file, which if you do it electronically, the thing I don't understand is what more are they running on your background check in that time than when you go run a NICS check or a PICS check?
yeah, how much deeper of a check is it compared to NICS or PICS for us in Pennsylvania, where, I mean, especially me, you run a background check, it's like, okay, you just submit it, and it's like, okay, your approval note is.
Yeah, exactly. Some people, it was funny too, actually, because today, actually, one of the last people we were selling a firearm to, they had kind of joked. They said, oh, let me know if I go pending, because I always go pending at this other shop, but I always go through quicker here, and I think it's because you guys do this. And it was kind of joking aside. I said, it was funny. We kind of laughed. I said, unfortunately, that's just your name, man. And it just happens to be that
you have of a name.
Yeah, or you just happen to have to wait a little bit. Whether you've bought 10 guns or 30 guns, there's no rhyme or reason to the background check system that I've been able to figure out yet.
Yep. So, alrighty, man. What do you say we get wrapping this up? We've been going on for quite a while.
Yeah, we've been going on for a little bit on braces and stocks and the NFA in general. And I mean, it's one thing that it's a little bit of a political topic. And it's, it's something that I think is extremely relevant today.
It is.
We're hearing it constantly. I know right now the ATF is already talking about something, and that's kind of why we wanted to, just kind of address this real quick. There's just been a lot of stuff in the news, so we'll see what's coming up, what's on the horizon for us with braces, stocks, and the National Firearms Act in general, because quite honestly, I think the National Firearms Act it's obsolete.
Outdated.
It's outdated. It never truly filled the purpose it was intended to serve, and that was to stop violent crime and keep these firearms out of criminals' hands. And that's never been the case, because we all know criminals do not follow the laws. That's why they are criminals. They're not law-abiding citizens. I mean,
So
it's just what it is.
yeah. So on that note, I still have to say I am firmly against the pistol braces. I will always be an SBR guy.
See, and that's the
But
thing. Yeah, I can't say I shouldn't say that having a short barrel rifle is a bad thing per se, because
no.
you have more benefits with the stock. You really do. I just don't like the idea of having to register and pay for something you should legally be allowed to own.
Yep. But like I always joke around with customers, you know what? I've spent $200 on a lot worse stuff. You know?
That's true. And in your
I
case,
mean,
you're
heck, go to
also
the casino for about 3 hours.
oh God, yeah, that's very true. And
Yeah.
that's one way to look at it. I just don't like having to pay it. And being an American, the idea of
Yep.
I'm getting the cries of the 1776 and taxation is theft, taxation is theft.
Here we are, $200. Yes, Daddy.
Yeah. Oh. Oh God. See, Duke knows what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, I
He's
was gonna say
shaking. He's
Duke's even
shaking.
shaking.
He's saying nah. He's like no, no, no. Taxation. No, no, no. We don't know. With that being said, I'm sure down the road I probably will end up being diving down the SBR rabbit hole.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it comes to the stocks versus brace, in the NFA. There's a lot open to interpretation right now, and we've had so many new gun owners in the past 2 years. I think just trying to put even more strain on people, it's just not right now.
Yep. One thing I have to say though
Hmm.
is buyer beware. I mean,
Yeah,
you have a lot of these companies coming out with stuff that to their interpretation is legal and meets the guidelines, but it it might not be the best fit for the ATF, if that makes sense.
and a lot is open to interpretation. And
Oh
again,
yes,
at the end of the day, we're not lawyers. The
nope.
people you watch on YouTube, they're not lawyers either. So don't take any of their stuff. So don't take any stuff really as legal advice. And just keep in mind, you're on the line at the end of the day. So you want to do and stay legal as possible and fight within
And
that.
stop writing the ATF letters because that's
Yeah.
what starts all of this.
Yeah, really. Why do people write the ATF? Like, it's not like Santa Claus where he's gonna come and give you like your machine gun you wanted. Like, hey, can I do this? No, stop asking permission. Stop. We're Americans. We don't ask for permission.
Yeah, we wait until somebody says, "Hey, no, 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 you can't do that."
Yeah, exactly. Tyler, on that note, where can they find you at?
I don't know.
Under a
Hiding.
bridge. Under a
Yeah,
bridge, hiding, screaming conspiracy theories. There's a fourth shooter on the grassy knoll. His name was John.
Whoa, whoa, we don't talk about that anymore. But no, seriously, you guys can find me Facebook, Instagram at Precision Rifle Works, and also at www.precisionrifleworks.com.
And you can find myself over on Instagram at SitePicture762. And you can also find me on YouTube, which I need to post more on with SitePicture762 as well. And then
We gotta get some shooting videos.
yeah, we really need to. We're gonna have some, we're actually gonna have, a little bit more coming soon where we're gonna get some shooting videos up and stuff like that. We actually have some stuff we're gonna announce pretty soon. And you'll be able to hear that news if you follow us over on Instagram at Across the Gun Counter, or follow us over on our website at acrosstheguncounter.com, where we really got to post more on the blog, man. I keep saying that.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. I got some more future prep stuff for that actually, after we're done recording, I want to talk to you about that I think you're going to find pretty cool. So
All right, let's get it.
until then, guys, make sure you're not using a Dremel for all your gunsmithing projects, because that doesn't make you a gunsmith.
That makes me cry.
Okay. All right, guys. Take care, stay safe, and yeah, stay away from the Dremel. Bad Dremel, bad Dremel.
Catch you later, guys.